What up, everybody? A lot of things going on today. Let's get started. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Dropping Give Me 20 with Phil Risden. I am Phil Risden. Like I've said before, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe with anybody you could. Spread the word. Let people know. Give them the gospel of Dropping Give Me 20. And if you're listening to this because you love my smooth, silky voice, okay, make sure to give a nice 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and leave a nice little review. I want to know how you feel. I want to know, everything that you're thinking. This podcast is for you. It's mostly for me, but it's also for you. Oh, boy. Like I've said, man, we got a lot of things going on today. It is February 1st at 9:30 a.m., the first of the month. Do you guys have your rent ready, or are you sweating it out like me? You know, this is always the fun part of the month, the entertaining part of the month where, your life goes from a regular mundane life to Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise, dodging every laser you can, every text from the landlord. When are you going to get it? You start giving like vague answers. I'll have it by the end of the week. What day? Don't ask me what day. All right. Give me some comfort in my life for this next week, please. So it's gonna be an interesting one. There's a lot of things happening too. I don't know if you guys have been on in the Twitterverse or not. I don't know if you like Twitter or if you hate being miserable. Because that's really what it is. It's the people who like Twitter for some odd reason, even though it destroys their life, and the other people who are smart enough to be like, I hate being miserable, so I'm not gonna read any of this stuff. But I am one of those people who loves Twitter. And if you guys haven't seen or not, Sean Penn and Thandie Newton seem to be in a bit of a beef. You guys probably all know Sean Penn from a million things. He was Harvey Milk, and I think that's it. Now he's Jeff Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's Sean Penn. He's done a million fucking things. I don't need to list his filmography, even though I only know 2 of them. Okay, Thandie Newton. You might know her, you might not. She was in Westworld. She's a black woman. She played the black chick in Westworld who kind of owned the saloon or whatever. And basically she plays a chick who thinks she's real, even though she's a robot, and then finds out she's not real, and then through that becomes real and tries to take her shit to the real world. Okay, so she's a very, very complicated character, but a great, great actor. She's been in a bunch of other kind of indie films and stuff too. But long story short, they started arguing because Sean Penn is of the ilk of men who think that a lot of modern men have been feminized. Okay, he thinks they've been feminized. He thinks they've been taught to be soft, and he thinks that he doesn't really know where this future of men are going and that we're kind of doomed to fail. Thandie Newton replied to him saying that he was ignorant, that he was just dumb, he didn't really know what he's talking about, and basically that all that stuff should kind of be celebrated, that men are getting better and this, that, and the third. So I asked to you people, I asked to Dropping Give Me 20, are men being feminized? Are they? I mean, my answer to that is yes, they are. But also, that's not totally a bad thing. that's how I feel. I mean, first off, let's just bring the timeline back. When you talk about men being feminized has been happening forever. I won't take it back to the 1700s or some shit, but if you want to talk into pop culture, it's basically been happening since the early 70s to now. I mean, all those rock stars and stuff dressing very androgynous. I mean, what was David Bowie in the 70s and 80s? You have the hair metal guys, people like the New York Dolls wearing high heels and shit, and skin tight pants and all that type of stuff. And I think that's just something that's just been an element of, I think, kind of the zeitgeist in general, just American and just world society, I would say, or at least Western world society. But I do understand what he's saying, because now it's gone from just those kind of outlier people, to your average guy next to you. It's becoming more and more acceptable. It used to just be oh, that guy, he dresses that way, but he's a kooky artist. Now you're just like, oh, that guy in the fucking stripper heels and fishnets, he's a contractor. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on? But I just think, it's whatever. As far as that stuff goes, is that something I would want to teach my son or something like that? I don't know. I mean, if it was something that came natural to him, sure. I think the main problem is that for a lot of these kids, that behavior doesn't become natural for them, or isn't natural for them. But a lot of parents, and I think the media, tries to make it natural for them, and I think that's the real issue. I think right now we're going through this weird time with this push and pull between the sexes, where it's kind of taught that any sort of like feminine traits are inherently good and any sort of masculine traits are inherently bad, and you have to get rid of them, which is kind of ridiculous because if you think about it, I mean, for feminism to have been making the waves that it has in these last couple of years, and for the last like century, those are all because of masculine traits. When you think about masculinity, it's not always punching her girlfriend because she burnt the roast. Okay, it's not always just like dudes wrestling to the ground and shooting each other over dumb shit. It's not that. A lot of masculinity comes from like confidence, questioning authority, being kind of being secure actually in who you are, and also too like kind of wanting to protect things and wanting to kind of stand up for certain like moral rights and stuff like that. I would say that is a big component of masculinity that I think gets overlooked, and in those types of aspects are something that have helped feminism. I mean, like, if those women weren't standing up for what's wrong, those things wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying that men are responsible for women's liberation. That's not necessarily true, but what I'm saying is those general factors are something that have kind of bled into that. I think masculinity isn't just simply violence for violence sake. Masculinity a lot of times is violence or anger or confrontation for the world's sake, or for the sake of your family, or for the sake of yourself. And sometimes that's terrible, and other times that can be very, very noble. So I don't think that feminization is necessarily bad, but I don't think masculinity is necessarily bad either. And I think right now we're in this kind of war of the genders again, where it's like they're trying to take all that away. And I think a lot of young boys and even young girls are going to be taught that that's a negative thing to have. And I think it's good to have a little bit of both inside of you. I think everybody has masculine tendencies and feminine tendencies within them, and it's less of a battle, and it needs to be more of a yin and a yang, and it also depends on what you define masculinity is, if you're really thinking about that too, because I could look at a picture of a man holding his child and embracing his child, and I can see that it's masculinity, even though that's kind of named as more of a feminine trait, I guess you could say. So it just all depends on what you're looking for. And I think the height of masculinity is to question things and to kind of understand and dig deeper for stuff. So yeah, I don't think any of us really have the answers. It's just kind of, look at your own paper, concentrate on your shit, and teach your kids what you want to, because it is starting to have a profound effect on children. I am starting to notice that. I haven't read any studies and I haven't read any articles, but believe me when I say that these kids have changed. Okay, no, it's true. I mean, you kind of hear and you kind of see it around that, like, little girls are a lot more proactive with things, and I think boys are definitely more stepping to the side. And I think it's because their parents constantly are plagued by, like, I guess you could say liberal media, or just the media at large. And they're kind of like, they read all those articles where it's like, here's why you should let your daughter do something. You know what I mean? But I think because of that, a lot of people stifle their sons. You know, they'll be like, oh, let's put her in this. Let's put her in this. Let's put her in this. Now she's getting all this attention and he's getting none of it because they just assume he'll be okay anyway because this is his world. And they're not necessarily wrong. It is a man's world still. But that doesn't build a good foundation for him to build on either. What you should be doing is letting either of them do what it is that they want to do and kind of just let their creativity and personal identities blossom. This whole thing with, now you kind of see articles and stuff about people talking about their trans daughter who's like 7 years old. And it's like, whatever happened to being a tomboy? It's like you're giving these people, you're giving these kids like political terms and sexual orientations as ways to identify themselves rather than letting them just be who they are in the moment and change at a moment's notice, because that's what being a child is. Their attention span is not the same as ours. They don't make declarative statements at that age and then keep them. I mean, some do, but that is an outlier. That is a really hard outlier. I mean, there are kids who dress up like pirates for fucking 2 years of their lives, and then next thing you know, they want to be an astronaut, or they just want to be a regular kid. Who the fuck knows? So I think anybody can do anything. So to kind of stifle that is super fucking lame. And I think Sean Penn is definitely right in a certain way. And I don't think that I get what Thandie Newton's saying, but I don't think he deserves to kind of be on the chopping block for that. I think she needs to have a little bit of empathy for his type of vibe and what he was trying to say and what he was going for. Because it's true. It's very fucking true. That being said, though, the world has enough fucking toxic masculinity. I mean, it's very possible the U.S. might be invading the Ukraine. So, there's a certain amount of masculinity that definitely has to fucking go. And it's the type of masculinity that only adheres to the green dollar. That's the one, man. The type of shit where it's like, oh, we'll take it to him if you got the right price. That type of shit, that's a fucking problem. Ukraine, man, I don't want to get into another fucking fight. Did you, anybody else, when you start reading those articles about the U.S. and the Ukraine and Russia and everything, right after we were done with Afghanistan and everything, and you're just like, ugh. It feels like when you get in a fight with your girlfriend or something, and it's like you guys had kind of a bad falling out, and then you're already about to leave. And right when you want to leave, she wants to bring up another thing, and it's like, fuck this. I'm going to the bar. I can't hang out with you. I can't be with you like this. That's what the US and the Ukraine kind of situation is right now. And it's kind of fucking tough, man. I mean, because, it's not really the Ukraine's fault. I mean, they're kind of stuck in the rock and the hard place if you think about it, because they're taking US dollars and stuff, but they're also directly next to Russia. And a lot of people are like, oh, why don't they just negotiate? And it's like, yeah, you could, but you're negotiating with two fucking kingpins, and one of them is right next to you, and they will smack you in the back of the head if you start fucking around. Russia does not play, dude. So this is a very, very big deal. It's a very big deal, man. And I just don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, I think what really it is that the U.S. just wants another cash cow. I think that's what it is. The U.S. wants another cash cow, another reason to sell a copious amount of weapons, another reason to fund their defense strategies and this, that, and the third, so they can make more money selling weapons once again. And I think they want to get out of the PR shitstorm that is the Muslim Middle Eastern conflict. I think it's kind of that. I think it's just been going on for too long. This has been on since 25, almost 30 years, since Desert Storm, practically, with Bill Clinton. We've been in the Middle East in one way, shape, or form, and I think people have just gotten so tired of it on both sides, on the liberal side and the conservative side, and just the whole thing of just the racial connotations and where America is as far as race. Everything's a hot button issue. So I think their idea is to just slowly pull out of that and then slowly involve themselves in the Ukraine, because nobody's going to give a shit if a bunch of white people get their arms blown off. That's the simple thought of it. Nobody's gonna give a shit if there's white babies, rolling around in the snow, half on fire, screaming into a camera like it was with Vietnam. Nobody's gonna give a shit, and this is gonna give the anarchists and the Black Lives Matter people and all those people less of a platform and less of a soapbox to stand on. Which I think they're, in that strategy, I think they're actually partially right. I think there's a lot of people that do just go for race baiting, but I also think they're selling a lot of our youth short, because I think because of the internet and everything, we definitely see through the okey doke. We see through the bullshit a little bit better. That doesn't mean that there's not more bullshit coming in from every which way, but we definitely see through the standard political bullshit a little bit more. And I think just as many people are going to be upset about Ukraine as they are about the Middle East, on both sides, on both sides, but specifically liberals, definitely. But I think, yeah, you will see eventually like some of those statuses like, oh, white kid getting his fucking head blown off. All right, have at it. You're gonna see a couple of those on Twitter, but for the most part, I think if you're opposed to war, you're opposed to war, and that's just what it is. But yeah, I think the youth, man, I think they're in a very interesting place. I think feminization is a thing. You have this new coming war that is going to be a fucking thing, because don't think it won't be. It's going to be here for a very, very long time. I can already fucking tell. And then, yeah, just like the internet and just so much misinformation. I was actually talking about Joe Rogan and, misinformation in my last video. So you can click the link above to check that out. But, so many things are happening right now, especially with that misinformation stuff. I was just talking to my roommate, and he was telling me about this thing called green texts. Have you heard about this? Green text. You seen this? You heard about this? Basically, it's this whole flood of shit on like YouTube and on the internet, and it's basically like fictionalized reality. Like, so what they'll do, it's fictionalized nonfiction, or fictionalized political nonfiction. That's a better way to say it, right? So let's say, good example, fucking the war in the Ukraine. Let's say we end up going to war, and the reason we went to war was because a journalist got kidnapped or something, right? In a green text, they would make a story about the journalist being kidnapped, right? And it would start off essentially where the news ended. So it would be like, and it would be in first person. It'd be in first person of the journalist. So he'd be talking about like, the first 5 minutes would be him like kissing his kids goodbye, going into the Ukraine and everything. Next thing I know, bags over my head, And then where the real green text, the fictionalized part would start, would be when the bag was removed off of his head and he's sitting directly in front of Vladimir Putin and he's telling him about launch codes and this, that, and the third. And it's all this fictionalized kind of Jason Bourne bullshit, but it's all based and it's all rooted in real things that have happened in politics. And this stuff has it spreads like wildfire, and a lot of times nobody knows where the real source of these things come from. They all just come from anonymous people writing green text to each other in message boards. Obviously this has made it onto 4chan and Reddit and this, that, and the third, and it's like, this is the type of stuff that kids are reading, and they're getting fucking like radicalized or militarized like from, because number one, they're in first person, number two, nobody trusts the internet. I mean, nobody trusts mainstream media anymore, which drives them to the internet to search for things. And now they start believing in whatever they hear, especially if it's from the right message board and stuff like that. Like, this is how Pizzagate gets started, is shit like this. Fucking green text. You think about it, like Edward Snowden, right? That guy is a green text story even before he's a green text. It's literally a guy finding out about how the U.S. is surveilling everybody. So he gets all the files. He leaves. He goes to Russia, and he has, what do they call it? Solidity there, he's there safely. I forget what they call it. Not extradited, because extradited is being brought back to the U.S. But he's there. He has asylum. But the Edward Snowden. It's like he gets files from the U.S. government, goes to Russia for asylum. He's there. He makes his way over to China. It's like he is a green tech story. So that's what makes it even more powerful, especially with like WikiLeaks and all that shit. It makes it so much more powerful and so much more believable, is because this kind of conspiracy shit, this Watergate shit, has already happened. So now people are just writing fictional stories of Watergate, Snowden shit, and stirring up more and more people. And these people are reading it as if they are real news articles. Some people read it for fiction, but most people read it as if they are real news articles. I'm telling you, when he told me that, I was fucking terrified. I was fucking terrified that some fucking country bumpkin in like West Virginia could read that and really think all this shit is real and all this shit is happening, and they could go and blow somebody's head off for no reason and think that they're saving the world. This shit is fucked. This shit is fucked. So, long story short, maybe a little bit more of a feminine attitude wouldn't be the worst idea. I don't think it would be. Oh, man. But, guys, that's been Dropping Gimme 20 with Phil Risden. I am Phil Risden. Like I said, if you like this on YouTube, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you were listening to this because of my sultry, sexy, silky, smooth voice on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to give me a 5-star rating and a nice little review, because I love you. Tell me what you want. Give me more. And write something in the comments, too. Why the fuck not, man? This is, like I said, it's all for you. It's mostly for me, but it's partially for you. All right? I love you. Have a good one. This has been Dropping Gimme 20. Peace.